But can both sides really come together on this issue? House Minority Whip Congressman Steve Scalise joins us now. Welcome, Congressman.
Hey, good to be with you. Good morning.
Good morning to you. What do you make of these red flag laws? Some conservatives are a little bit concerned about them. What I'm most concerned about are Democrats and Republicans actually being able to come together and have a productive solution when it comes to the issue of guns, because they seem to be on two very different pages all the time.
Well, you know, and if you look at where we start, you know, the red flag laws, there have definitely been some due process concerns that have been raised. I mean, even in Connecticut, when Sandy Hook happened, they had a red flag law in the books. But let's focus on actually what we can do to solve the problem. And Congress has passed some things. I know everybody wants to act like there's been nothing done. There are thousands of, over hundreds at least, of gun laws on the books. But we just last year passed the Fix NICS bill. This is a bill that really went to the heart of a lot of the problems with the background check system, where you had people falling through the cracks, people with mental illnesses. You look at the Parkland shooting, where he was going around telling people, I'm going to be a professional school shooter. FBI had a file on him and decided not to follow it up. We need to fix those problems and make sure that the bad people that we identify, there are in over 80% of mass shootings, somebody knew they were going to do it beforehand, and in many cases alerted law enforcement or somebody else, and nothing was done. I think that's really what drives people crazy. Congress did come together on the Fix NICS bill. President Trump signed it into law, by the way, and also President Trump did ban bump stocks. That's what was used in Las Vegas. It was Barack Obama who legalized bump stocks. It was Donald Trump who said, no, we're going to stop this, and it's now banned.
Representative, as our viewers know, gun violence very personal for you with what happened to you a couple of years ago, and you've made a remarkable comeback and are a strong voice on being sensible on these topics. You also wrote an op-ed because one of your colleagues, Representative Joaquin Castro, put out a tweet about a list of his constituents who had donated to President Trump, and you said in your op-ed, Representative Castro targets his constituents, don't respond to murder with insane partisanship. You wouldn't be one to point at him and say he's inciting violence, but he's certainly targeting members of his own district who happen to have a different political view than him.
Right. You know, what's his real objective? And of course, ironically, there were some people that he put on that list that also contributed to him. So what is he really suggesting? When you see people trying to personalize and blame somebody else other than the shooter, that's the real concern I have. You know, look, you saw almost every presidential candidate immediately trying to assign blame to Donald Trump. When you look at, first of all, even in my shooting, nobody was to blame but the shooter. Clearly, it was politically motivated. But whoever was the motivation that the shooter used is not to blame. It's the shooter that's to blame. And we shouldn't have other people, especially politicians, that have their own agenda, trying to immediately after a shooting, instead of praying for the victims and trying to find out what really happened, they're trying to propose and talk about their bill that they filed and promote their political agenda. There's no place for that.
Yeah, you know, Congressman, I appreciate what you're saying, and I happen to agree with you. My concern is just that in the political climate that you're in, it's not realistic anymore. It seems like everyone, particularly on social media, is on the edge of their seat to point fingers. It turns into a shouting game very quickly. It's extremely polarized. It seems like there's no real conversation happening anymore at all.
Well, you know, and I think you've got to look at the people that are working to really solve the problem. Look at the Department of Homeland Security. Literally in his first week, the new acting secretary put together a task force to focus on a lot of the recruiting that's being done and the radicalization that's being done online on social media, where they're literally trying to go and find people, and they're being successful, unfortunately, at growing and kind of brewing this homegrown domestic terrorism. We need to focus more on rooting that out. The FBI actually has been focusing some new resources there. Let's make sure they've got the tools they need, because again, the telltale signs are there too many times before a mass shooting, and nothing's done about it. And then after, they say, let's go and limit the rights of law-abiding citizens.
Yeah, I mean, seeing something and saying something, especially as a family member, is really important in moments like that. Steve Scalise, thank you very much for your time.
Thanks so much.
We appreciate it.
Great being with you. Thanks.